since it's absolutely freezing cold outside this week and none of us have a ton of time to spend in the kitchen making dinner, let's talk about these super easy and delicious soup recipes that you can get on the table for your family without a lot of effort, but still give them healthy, nourishing meals every single night. I've got 4 brand new soup recipes for you. I've tweaked a couple of the old recipes and brought in a couple of new ones. I'm really excited to share these with you, and I think that you're gonna like them too. They're gonna give you plenty of leftovers for that 5th weeknight. So I've got your entire weeknight menu all planned out for you for next week, and I can't wait to show you all of these recipes. Welcome back to Homemade Simple. Right out of the gate, let me apologize for my voice. I'm really trying not to get sick, but my immune system has taken a little bit of a hit, so I'm sorry for the nasal sound that you're going to have to deal with in today's video. I hope that that's not too distracting from the content because I'm really excited about these meals. It's so easy to throw together a simple soup for your family, but you do not have to sacrifice nutrition or budget in order to do it. That's what I love about soups, and especially winter soups. Another thing before we get started on the specifics of these recipes, you're gonna see a lot of the same ingredients, and that is partly just because it's hard to get away from a few ingredients in soups. So many soup recipes that I come across call for canned tomatoes or diced tomatoes, and I've just decided I'm just gonna embrace that. I have found a new store that I love to go to called Bargain Hunt. I don't know if you know about Bargain Hunt. Look in your maps program, see if there is a Bargain Hunt in your area because it is such a great place to find inexpensive pantry items, and these canned tomatoes cost 30 cents. So I'm really excited about how frugal these recipes were, in addition to how just timely they are because of the weather and also how healthy they are. Let's get started with the specifics of this taco soup recipe. I love to make taco soup. It's super, I keep trying to avoid the word super because I use that word way too much, and especially it sounds really hokey in a soup recipe video. So maybe you can keep a word count of how many times I accidentally say that word. But anyway, I love taco soup because it is so simple and it is so perfect for so many different occasions. It always comes out delicious whether you use no meat, beans, chicken, beef. It works perfect for all of them, but I had a rotisserie chicken that I had deboned and put in the freezer. That really is nice to have some meat ready to go. I added 3 small cans of tomatoes. I also added a jar of salsa. I wanted to add a little bit of something different in the flavor department for this particular recipe, and I thought salsa was a really good thing that I had in the pantry that needed to be used up that might go well with this recipe. It did end up tasting really good. So salsa is a really good addition to just a regular traditional taco soup recipe. I also added about 1.5 cups of water and then some seasonings including cumin, chili powder, salt, dill, and some dry milk powder. I mix all of that together with 1 bag of frozen corn, and I just allow it to simmer on the stove for probably 30 minutes or so, and this soup is ready to serve. I like to serve mine with sour cream, but I didn't have any sour cream today, so I'm just gonna serve it with some tortilla chips and some shredded cheese. I did really like the subtle taste that the salsa added for the flavor of this soup, so I hope that you will give this recipe a try. Also, I'm sure you have a ton of ideas for special little additions to this and all the other soups that we're gonna talk about today, so make sure that you share all of your suggestions down in the comment section, and you can find this and all of the recipes we're going to talk about down in the description box right below the video. Now let's move on to a tomato and spinach soup that you are going to definitely want to try. I'm pretty sure I saved the most unique recipe for last, but I'm going to share with you the most delicious recipe of the week right now. I loved this soup. It was so good, and Chris just kept talking about it throughout the week. So this soup is definitely going to have a spot on our regular meal rotation. I'm just going to saute some onions in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and after they cook down a bit, I'm going to add some garlic powder, salt, oregano, and basil, and I'm gonna just let all of that cook together for a minute. After all of those flavors meld together, I'm gonna add 2 cans of diced tomatoes with the juices, and I'm gonna allow that to simmer. The recipe called for 6 cups of chicken broth, and although normally I have chicken stock in the refrigerator, I have not had any for a while, but I did buy this large container of Better Than Bouillon at Costco. I mentioned it in my Costco video, so if you haven't checked that out, I'll link it right here and also down in the description. It is something that is really good to add to your grocery list, and it's so good to have it in your refrigerator ready to go when you don't have chicken stock. It's easy to make some right away. So I just made some chicken stock with that Better Than Bouillon, put it in the soup, and allowed everything to simmer for a while. I also added about 2 cups of shredded chicken. After everything simmered for about 10 minutes, I'm gonna add 1 cup of heavy cream. I'm gonna pour it in slowly and allow it to mix together, and then just allow everything to simmer for another 10 minutes. I'm also gonna add about 3 handfuls of fresh spinach. This is optional, but I really feel like it added a little bit of flavor and a lot of beauty to the end result of this soup. You could also try some kale, but you probably will want to let the kale cook a lot longer than the spinach did, since kale is a lot more coarse of a vegetable and would take a little bit longer to get soft than the spinach. The spinach didn't need much time at all. I had some bread left over from last week's recipe, so I decided to make us some cheese toast. I just added a small slice of cheddar cheese to each of the pieces of bread and put it in the oven under the broiler for about 5 minutes or so until everything was nice and bubbly. And it's that simple and easy. Everything is all ready to go. Not only was this meal so easy to put together, it was so delicious and so perfect for all of this cold weather we've been experiencing, and it makes for perfect leftovers as well. Okay, next up, let's talk about a very simple and easy chicken noodle soup recipe that was perfect for our Sunday lunch menu. I always struggle knowing what to fix on Sunday afternoon because we're gone during the morning for church and we come home and everybody is ravenously hungry. And if I don't have something already prepared, it's either going to be fend for yourself or go out to eat. And I really don't want to go out to eat every single Sunday afternoon. So this soup ended up being the perfect Sunday lunch recipe for us. I'm going to chop up some onions and some carrots, and I'm going to saute them in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You will again see my trusty Dutch oven got plenty of use this week. I just kept it washed up, put it on the stove, and it was ready for the next meal. And I also used that Better Than Bouillon yet again in this recipe to make the chicken stock. I added 6 cups in this recipe, but by the time that I had gotten home, the pasta had soaked up all of the broth, so I probably should have added 8 cups to begin with. Again, in this recipe, I'm going to add about 2 cups of shredded chicken from the rotisserie chicken that I had in the freezer. I have just made it a habit that anytime I go to Costco, I will pick up a couple of rotisserie chickens just so I can have the meat ready to go in the refrigerator or the freezer. I added 1 container of pasta. It ended up being about a pound of this better wheat pasta. It just has a little more fiber than regular pasta, so I'm not sure if the extra fiber had anything to do with the end result of the soup, But this pasta soaked up all of the extra chicken broth, and I ended up having to add a little bit of water before we ate. It ended up tasting really good, and there was no problem with the flavor, but I really tried to be very careful not to over stir the pasta. If you do rice instead of pasta, you won't really have to worry about that, and probably this is why people use egg noodles in chicken noodle soup instead of this kind of regular pasta, because it just doesn't hold up very good. But the flavor was delicious. I will say that although I did cook this on the stove for a little while before we left for church, I did put it in my oven. My particular oven has a slow cooker setting, so I did have the soup cooking in my oven while we were gone. You might want to go ahead and put it in a slow cooker if your oven doesn't have that, but I think after you add the noodles, 20 minutes of stovetop cooking is more than enough time for all of the flavors and the pasta to cook together perfectly. I don't know if you caught my live video on Tuesday, but if you did, you heard me talk about if this video came out on Friday and it did not have this barbecue chicken soup recipe, that you'll know that it was a total flop. So I'm happy to report that it did turn out, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Having a homemaking channel and really focusing on recipes really stretches my creativity, and I'm really trying to be creative in the recipes that I bring to y'all every week. I don't want to give you the same old every single time, but I really am the kind of person that feels most comfortable having a set menu of maybe 15 recipes and not going away from those. This soup recipe really stretched my limits, and I'm really glad that I tried it because it ended up being such a unique and special flavor that I think it's perfect to share with all of you. I started by sauteing some onions, and I'm also going to saute some diced chicken. After the chicken is cooked through, I'm going to add 1 can of corn and 1 can of diced tomatoes. I'm also going to add a large can of baked beans. These baked beans came from Aldi. They don't have high fructose corn syrup, but that's really hard to find. So just check your ingredients, and if you don't find any in your local store, you can just add northern beans. I'm also going to add 4 cups of chicken stock and 1 cup of barbecue sauce, some cumin, chili powder, and salt. I'm going to let everything to simmer for about 30 to 45 minutes. I cooked mine a little longer because it was a little more soupy than I wanted it to be, and I wanted to give it plenty of time to cook down so that it would be thicker and not quite so runny. I decided to serve it with a little bit of shredded cheese and sour cream, and I still had some of these tortilla chips, so I decided to put it on the side as well. I really enjoyed this soup. It was so nice to have another soup to add to my soup list that was a little bit different and not at all ordinary. I would love to hear all about your favorite wintertime soups, so please make sure you leave all of those recipes down in the comments. Again, you can find all of these recipes in the description box right below the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I really hope that you will, and I also hope that you will click the bell icon and choose all notifications so that you don't miss a single update or video from the channel. I really am enjoying our live videos on Tuesday, so be sure to tune in at 2:15 Central Time next Tuesday so you can join in the conversation. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. I love you, and I will see you again next time.